Welcome to EpiSTEM podcast. This EpiSTEM podcast is brought to you from the National Centre of STEM Education at the School of Education in the University of Limerick. I'm your host, Geraldine Simi, and I'm the Professor of STEM Education here at the Centre and the Director of EpiSTEM. And my co-host,
Michelle Starr, and I am the Research Liaison Officer in EpiSTEM.
Welcome back, everybody. And today our very special guest is Assistant Professor Pat Dundon. Pat is here lecturing in the School of Education, in Science Education. He's an Assistant Professor in Science Education. He's also Course Director in the School of Education of a science programme for initial teacher education, a large programme where we have student teachers with an aspiration to qualify in science education. It's a biology stream, and then it has substreams in agricultural science, in physics and in chemistry. And I suppose other teaching duties are interesting as well, Pat. You're also teaching an Understanding Schools module with the College of Art and Design in Clare Street in Limerick here as part of a collaboration between the School of Education. So, Pat, you're very, very welcome today.
Thank
Welcome,
you,
Pat.
Thanks, Michelle.
And would you like to tell us a little about yourself?
I will, yeah. I'm born locally. I'm from Paterswell in Limerick. Would have went to national school there, gravitated into a famous school in Limerick city centre called the CBS Sexton Street, and then ended up in UL to do my undergrad, ironically enough, in the programme you outlined there. So I'm coming back kind of full circle. I was a graduate of Science Ed in 2001. Now I'm ageing myself there. Went straight into a PhD in the Department of Biological Sciences, and I think it was 2005, I decided I suppose I need to start earning a few quid here, and ended up the road in Castletroy College, and gave just under 20 years of my lifetime there, and finished up I think in May 22, and they good enough to bring me back to UL, and they haven't got rid of me yet.
That's gorgeous.
So that's
and
where we are.
You did a PhD in, was it soil science or
soil biochemistry? Yeah,
soil biochemistry.
So nitrogen mineralisation. I'm actually dusting it down now at the moment to see can I publish out of it, because when I went into the school, that was 2005. So your first year out teaching is, it's busy obviously, and you're trying to get yourself accustomed to your surroundings. And I was writing up the PhD at that stage, so you were never as busy when those two worlds collided. So I didn't publish at the time. Ended up in school, enjoyed it. Got into an environment that I enjoyed. 15, 16 years there, and then an opportunity arose here in May 22, I think, and so I'm back.
It's a great topic to have for, like, I suppose even biodiversity, and for bringing the young people to learn science in the garden and all these things.
My background is, our background at home is farming, so like I would have had an interest in that anyway, and we would have. I did all the actual trials and stuff at home, so it was it was a lot of early mornings at the time. Now I don't know whether I'd be able for it now, but it was good.
And Patrick, can I just bring you back? I can see where the interest of your biodiversity in the soil, topic in your PhD would have been from your farming background, and of course your science background. But what spurred your interest to go into science education studies?
Yeah, I think I would ask that of a lot of my own students. There's probably a trigger moment for everybody, I think, and I would have had a really good biology and maths teacher when I was in second level, and it wasn't, and I won't name him now, but it was it wouldn't have been all the bells and whistles that you might necessarily assume. He was just really good at what he did. He just knew what he was at. Plotted a course for the students, and I just kind of
got you engaged. Yeah,
got you engaged, and it was just, he knew what he was doing. He was really polished, and I said, geez, I wouldn't mind being like him now if I could aspire to be in that. And I like science anyway. I'd be kind of naturally curious. So it would seem like a natural fit. And I suppose, like, when you're of that age and you're looking to go into a career, does anybody really know what they want to do then?
No. Yeah.
I think the minority possibly. So it was kind of seen as a safe enough kind of a pathway. It would be, go back old enough now and age myself more, it would be in the nursing or the teaching or that kind of thing. So I liked the science teaching idea.
And I mean, of course, that inspiration from a teacher does matter when you're at that stage, because you're in a stage where I suppose the best teachers can draw out whatever that piece is in you. It's really educo is drawing out, leading out. So that person, that you have that inspirational piece with you when you're a teacher.
Yeah, you're facilitating learning. Like that's the thing. And some people do that really well. And like it's a job on for people now going into teaching, because you're often trying to sell a product to people that they don't necessarily want. Do you know, I'm fortunate enough, I'm teaching science, and I think everybody has some sort of a graph for science, but like it can be very easy now if you're teaching, maybe let's say for argument's sake, in Irish to a school that a cohort that doesn't
or whatever
engage. So it's a different career now, but it's definitely rewarding and interesting.
The big ideas and the concepts and the theories of science, though, are challenging, and they're challenging to teach and teach well. So there's a lot about science that's challenging. It's obviously, once you have a grow for it and you have a spark, but to be able to teach it well involves a lot of hands-on work, inquiry-based learning. It involves being able to do loads of pedagogies.
Yeah, and you do have the opportunity to do that in a science classroom and lab in school, because you can mix it up. You can design, rather than telling them why something is the way it is, you can design an investigation for them to find that out themselves. You can lead them on a little bit of the way. Now, since the advent of the new junior cycle science, like there's lots about science and society, kind of interrogating texts around science, like that gets huge interest from students, and it's developing all those kind of transferable skills, being able to mine out information, sort out the nonsense from the stuff that's relevant. Like science offers a plethora of stuff that
it does,
can go after,
and if you relate it to the real world, the citizen science and all of that, it's very, very interesting. You can make it very interesting.
Oh yeah, sure, just open. The best teacher oftentimes is the radio on in the car on the way in, the stuff that's kind of making the headlines, that you can kind of dive in and say.
Because there's right answers in science, though. I think it is a person, you want somebody with a bit of nuance, who's not dogmatic, because you are leading people along to be discovering, but really you are kind of with your answers at the same time, given that science has knowledge going with it, and right knowledge and all of that.
But if you go back far enough and actually ask where that knowledge came from, because that would have been a line I would use quite regularly, like, okay, it's all well and good having the stuff between the two covers of the textbook, but somebody had to put that there. And you just go back those couple of steps forward to establish where that came from. And it was never accepted. I'm actually doing a degree at the minute with the OU, and I'm trying to finish. It's killing me, but we'll get through it. But they call that provisional science. And like, it's provisional knowledge, sorry. So that takes a while to bed in, to be accepted. And even for students to be made some bit aware of that, this isn't as black and white as it is now, as it was once upon a time. And that can be applied to lots of things in society.
So then it keeps science as an open enterprise rather than something shut down, closed, pre-packaged. I mean, it's the openness piece that I think is the open piece that's the valuable piece.
It must be amazing, because you're saying that you've got almost 20 years in the classroom experience with secondary school students, and about engaging, not all of them are going to be 100% buy-in to do science, especially when you're in first, second, maybe in those lower years in secondary school. And now you're teaching your pre-service teachers. You must have a huge amount of skills that you've learned to bring into your pre-service teaching, classroom to insights.
Well, you bring the on the floor stuff, I think, because I've probably made as many mistakes as I've had success stories in schools, and like there's learning in that. So just to actually pick up your initial point on that there, Michelle, about maybe your first and second years maybe not being engaged, I actually think we do a fine poor job on that at some level in secondary schools, because they all come in looking to do science, they all want to do it, and then at some level you actually nearly turn them off, because the experiments you give them are recipes, for want of a better expression. And they want to do science. Like, they'll come to the door and they'll say, are we doing a practical today? Are we doing an experiment? Because they like doing that. In terms of the skills for the pre-service teachers, it's probably offering a little bit of inside track about what works and what doesn't work. It is all well and good having these highfalutin notions about doing open inquiry, but like, you can't go in and just do that on day dot. That doesn't work. Like, it'll fall down around your ankles. So it's on the floor stuff. It's where to go and access resources, how to lean on each other to kind of work, what's the expression, smarter rather than harder. I did a good resource on X, Y, and Z, and we'll just kind of cross-pollinate, particularly because like our undergrads here are never too far away from a school placement being on their horizon. So that is obviously something that you're always trying to get them ready for, and to think in terms of the activities they could use in their
I mean, with my first years now teaching the philosophy and trying to get that idea, I've been a reflective teacher, if you like. What you're talking about on the floor stuff really is planning and reflection and listening and thinking and working with people in a lovely dialogical way and learning and never being afraid to learn yourself. And that involves that there's a huge back stuff going on for teaching to work really well that is hard to put into words.
Yeah, it is. The bit about the reflection there, you'll never teach the same class twice, ever. It'll always be slightly different, same topic or whatever. And you'll know when you're like, you know you're in trouble as a teacher when you said, geez, that was a right good class now. It was a right good class for you, but there might have been nothing learned whatsoever. So you have to you have to meet them where they're at.
You do.
You know,
Yeah.
and that is different for every class in front of you because they'll all come in with different interests. They'll have different parental backgrounds. Some of them, you know,
Yes.
parents in STEM or whatever, and others, you know.
I love that because what you're doing is you're engaging with the students.
Yeah.
It's not about the, you know.
And you do it on the hoof.
You do,
There's an awful lot of teaching learned on the floor.
Yes.
And it's,
Yes. And it's called dialogical teaching. It's kind of relationship. It's seeing the student. It's being there with them. It's being present. I mean, Maxine Green, we're working on her at the moment with the first years, and her idea is that you're to be fully present, wide awake and present. So it's not about you bringing in all your, you know, bags of techniques and your bags of outcomes and everything. And of course, our second year students, when they go and practice, can be very much have all the paraphernalia, but the floor stuff is the hard bit, which is actually being present to the moment.
There is, and you know, as you get a little bit more comfortable in your skin out in schools, the flip side of that is actually true as well. You can get so comfortable, you allow yourself to go off on unmerciful tangents.
You can.
And I've been guilty of that now several times because a question comes from the floor and you've never engaged with that before and said, geez, that's a really interesting question. Now we'll just go after that. And it can end up sprawling, but there's value in it because like you're lighting a fire there, or at least you're giving oxygen to it a little bit.
You are,
and that you know will bring on that student.
And you interest students even if they know that actually that they can get you straying, that there's some kind of a funny piece to that relationship. They've got to be able to do that to you as well.
Twist my rubber
you know,
arm. Twist my rubber
exactly.
arm.
Yeah, and it allows them to feel they have some sort of autonomy, isn't it? Because we all need that at the end of the day, especially.
Yeah, and that's a big thing now. The student voice within a controlled environment where you're managing them through 3 years of junior cycle or 2 years of senior cycle. So yeah, I think actually to pick up on another point there, we do that quite well here in UL. We sometimes can be very critical of things we do, but the students go out knowing that they have to develop relationships with students. They're very clued into that idea.
They are.
And
they are.
in fairness, it works.
Yeah,
it's the best pedagogy. Like, because if you're cold, distant, you can't be approachable. If you feel that you know everything and you can't be challenged, well, then you're on a hiding to nothing. I'm afraid.
You are,
Absolutely.
and we do that well, and we also do that reflective piece and the idea that it's not about having all the right answers and doing it all right. It's actually about being that willingness and humility to kind of keep learning, because I think that's the best kind of teacher to have anyway. Somebody who's open to learning, willing to learn themselves, willing to fall and fail and come back and learn better. Yeah. I mean, that's a good place to start, isn't it?
Well, there's 2 points on that. The discipline itself lends itself to it, because like science is not, as I said, it's not the 2 books of a cover. We're always pushing the back cover a little bit further on. So there's a discipline issue there as well. Like, there's no harm from see that science moves on. It's not a static body of knowledge. But even when they're in ITE, Darlene, it's the whole idea they are in, came with us, but they step into Drogheda and then they step into Cassan. So again, you're dead in the water if you think once you get that little bit of paper coming down the stairs inside in the concert hall, if it's over at that point, you're in trouble. And in fairness, our students know that it isn't.
They do.
They're always learning.
They do.
And that they're taught that well here.
Yeah, they are. There's good teaching and there's good support from the schools as well. Sure, we've a huge number of student teachers now, so that there is. It's an amazing space, if you like, all of that work and trying to get, I suppose, to bring out the best in the students so that they understand, that they keep their motivation going, because I think the care side of teaching needs to be improved. We need to teach students how to care for themselves as well as care for others. That they need more toolkits in that probably nowadays with the pressures on life, so that they keep that motivation, the thing that fires you up inside. They've got to keep that through life.
Yeah. And there's a couple of things they get that, again, UL with the student engagement support officers do a fabulous job on that, Andrea and her colleagues. But, even I might wear the hat of being a science teacher in a school or a biology teacher, but like, I will inevitably have a role to play in well-being and stuff like that. So even the students that we are producing in UL need to be aware that they have a role to play in that as well. And in fairness, your idea of wrapping around there, like the teachers, the cooperating teachers, your professional support teams, deputy principals and so on, they're really good. Like, they acknowledge that they all came from that floor and they all have to bring the next generation up with them. The pipeline needs to keep flowing.
It does.
You need good teachers.
You do.
For lots of reasons.
You do. And I suppose we need to get away from too much of an emphasis on the individual competition piece, because the cooperation and interdependence and working together is actually is probably the way of the future, as well as I mean, we're due to have Stephen Ball talking with us on a Zoom on Friday week. I think it's the 14th of November. 14th. Stephen's going to chat to us, and his new book is talking about that self-formation and commoning, learning to work with others to solve the climate change and the citizen science and all that.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that, because that the subject requirements landed for that there about 72 hours ago, and like, I was actually having a conversation with a colleague around that yesterday. It's set up for co-teaching. Like, it really is the climate action, sustainable development. So even at that level, even since I've come out of the classroom, I would have never taught a class with a colleague.
Yes.
That never happened in my lifetime. But it's more the case now, and there's a lot to be gained in that. You have different perspectives on things. It's a little bit of, that granular bit of support that you can give when you have an extra colleague in a room that you couldn't if you were there on your own. So there's a lot to be said for it.
Wonderful change, innovative pedagogy is happening, which brings me to the research question. I mean, your appetite for research now has improved since you've ended up here now with us full time in the university. What's coming for you as the areas of interest for you in terms of researching?
Yeah, well, we'll speak to what I'm involved in at the moment. So we've a paper underway around the experiences of our students on school placement in terms of the volume of supervision and substitution they're doing. So we collected data from our fourth year undergrads last year, and a lot of them are being pressed into doing additional S&S, as we'd coin it in the business, on top of their, the classes that they're assigned. So one of the stark statistics was 91% of them would have done S&S during the course of their placement, sometimes to the tune of upwards of 10 hours a week on top of the 10 they're doing. So that's interesting. It speaks to things like maybe there's a shortfall of teachers in the system, that they're needed there, but also it can't be just seen as maybe, and this is what the data suggested, there's advantages and disadvantages to it. There's a bit of financial gain. They're getting to maybe not have to work part-time because they can earn a few quid when they're in supervision, but they're also getting extra classroom teaching experience, developing relationships with students that they wouldn't have had normally. So it's an interesting one.
And any other studies underway at the minute?
Yeah, around doing another study with a different colleague around, I suppose, a framework for teaching, how you would teach practical skills in a lab to students. A framework for that is referred to as PEPs at the moment. So we ran that last year with the third year undergrads, and we're writing that up currently and hope to get it trialled in schools with other students. In the background, I'd have an interest, I suppose, in assessment and science, so I would have collected data on the role, I suppose, of pre-examinations used as predictors for potentially attainment in junior cycle science, but also in leaving certificate maths. And is that landscape going to have to change now, because we're a long time moved into junior cycle reform, but the senior cycle obviously is more high stakes. So will your pre's still have the same, I don't know, will they still require the same importance in a different environment? So that's
kind of running with curriculum reforms, those kind of pedagogies and assessment things that run with it. And doesn't that make sense? I suppose if you think of your lifetime as science teaching and your work with the science research and everything, that makes sense. To me.
Yeah, it surely does. And I love the practical skills in the lab for the students. Has the micro, like using those micro lab techniques, is that one of what
we had them doing was we got the students to operate in threes, and we had one of them designated as the person who was doing the experiment. One of them was the student to all intents and purposes, and we had the third person actually recording it. So there's another window on that there, the actual, I suppose, the affordances of recording somebody doing a skill, and all three then looking back on it and interrogating it for what went well, what didn't go so well.
Very good idea.
So it came out of a kind of a study done in Journal of Chemical Education on digital badging. Now we haven't quite gone that route with it, but it's extracted from
it's
that.
open for it's open for that to develop. Very, very interesting. You've written a science textbook, haven't you, for schools as well?
I co-authored them with a couple of colleagues of mine.
What is it? What has it been for? Junior cycle or senior cycle or
two
where?
Of them for junior, so two of them, sorry, for junior cycle science. Well, Catalyst was the one that was published in 2016, and that was replaced subsequently then by Elements of Science. So their Elements is going quite well. It's in a number of schools around the place, and then we wrote a different biology book then over the summer, and that's gone in to schools since this September.
And that's biology for senior cycle, is it?
Yeah, the new spec,
The new spec. So you've worked with the State Exams Commission and with what was formerly known, what was IDA now, the Professional Support Service. What was it called in the past?
PDST, Professional Development Service.
And were you working around then with, what were you doing? In-service support for biology teachers, was it?
That would have been in-service teachers who we would have developed workshops for that would have been delivered in the evening. So in-service teachers coming out to local education centres. So I worked initially, I think I wore 4 hats there. I worked initially with the junior cycle science, sorry. Then I dabbled in maths for a while. Data loggers, could you believe? That's aging me now again.
Yes.
And then more recently, biology and physics.
Yeah, trying to stir. Yeah, it's an ongoing process to try and keep the reforms up and keep learning yourself. But I mean, what a great experience you bring to the students now in higher education.
But you actually learn more at those yourself than the people who attend them, because you get the people that are coming are bought in because they're coming out to give up their evenings, and they all generally have something to say and to contribute, and that's, I suppose COVID had an impact on that. You can get that little bit more isolated in schools because, things were teaching away from home, and there was multiple staff rooms put into places now, rather than once upon a time it was all one. So we lost that a bit with the education centres, the PDST. I'm finished up with the PDST, I'd say about 4 or 5 years now. And it was COVID actually that kind of put the kibosh on that a little bit.
Yeah.
And then up until, I think about 2 years ago, I was with the State Examinations Commission doing junior cycle science, even in its previous iteration. I'm that old. And more recently, then I gave 4 or 5 years at physics, senior physics. And they were really good, really good people involved in those.
Very committed and interested teachers. And I mean, I can identify so much with what you've said. I mean, I spent 10 years of my own life supporting transition here, learned a lot myself, I think more learning for me than for anyone I ever worked with, but also that understanding the school-university partnership supported me when I was teaching so strongly. It became very much part of my research in the last 10 years, 20 years, has been all about better school-university partnerships to keep that openness going and keep the supports in, wings of support in around the teachers as well. And
it's such a two-way street. And maybe it's potentially a small bit more weighted in the university direction, and what you're saying there to go and support the schools is so important, because like without the schools we wouldn't have places to place our students, and they would miss out so much in school placement.
And also with that, the teachers, because they're professional development, and they are professional, because you've got that continuous. I mean, they have a school day, and like what you were doing, giving up time to, with the training, but they were giving up time as well, and that's continuous. I mean, it's not recognised as much as it should be.
It isn't, and I suppose if you're of a certain vintage teaching, you possibly haven't heard of COSON, but our undergrads now for the last number of years should and will be aware that they're on that continuous professional development journey.
There's some very good policies there with on that. Did I hear somewhere that you're putting through some research into ESAI? The ESAI in 2026 is going to be in the University of Galway.
Yes,
Are you?
We'd hope so. Anyway, I think the deadline is fast approaching the end of November, so I think we'll put together something around the pre's and their affordances and constraints of them now. So something around junior cycle science and the different modes of assessment there, your CBAs, your terminal exam, the pre's, looking for kind of connections between them, and equally for, I suppose, I wear a different hat as well. I teach maths, and just looking at the whole idea of the pre and how it impacts choices that students make around sustaining levels as they move into kind of those nervous months of March, April and May, and then you know they make nuclear decisions sometimes about levels and don't quite understand the full ramifications of it.
Very interesting.
And Pat, can I just ask you, that's very interesting. Does that just happen with maths, or would it happen with other subjects, or is it more so with mathematics?
I think it's anecdotally, I suppose it's more with maths but I think it's fairly solid comment to make. It's considered a high stakes subject. There's a lot of attention on it. Parents, guardians have their own opinion of it. I couldn't do it, so my son or daughter can't do it. I can't support them. So quicker to make decisions around maths than they are other subjects, I think, which is unfortunate because they're narrowing the the options that are available for them. And you would try as best you can to kind of plumose them, keep them on, but it's sometimes it's a fight, fighting a losing battle there, I'm afraid.
Yes.
And the pre's are a problem there because they are marked punitively oftentimes. They're not really reflective of what they'll see in the summer. Like with my experience of the state exams, it was never where we were looking to take marks off a student. You were always trying to give them. So that seems to be a different kind of approach that you see in the marking of pre's, and you know that has consequences then for grades. And when people see 20 and 30%, they're making decisions that they might regret subsequently.
Yeah, lovely. It's a different type of discipline to be more positive as opposed to more punitive. So it's another day's podcast, I think. At this stage, I think it's been great talking to you, Pat.
Thanks,
and we haven't
That's
anything additional
Thank
today.
you, Pat.
Yeah, it's been really lovely talking to Assistant Professor Pat Dundon here in the School of Education in the University of Limerick. So playing us out today, we have Yon. Yon is a songwriter and a guitarist, an original songwriter from Limerick. He's in his 4th year of the BA in World Music, and he's going to play us out with an original song on his acoustic guitar called Butterfly. Take it away, Yon.
Take me in, breathe me through your lungs. I'm rich within your love. And hold me tight. Speak to me in tongues. I'm rich within your love. And call me by name. Take away my pain. I'm rich within your love. I'm rich within your love. Oh, butterfly, oh, butterfly, oh, butterfly, oh. With broken wings, 'cause you're a butterfly, oh, butterfly, oh, butterfly, oh. With broken wings. take away from tulips. Oh, who knew that we could do this? Not too many flowers. We'll lay here for hours. Oh, who knew that we could do this? So you just bore my heart, and I just pluck my strings. Oh, who knew that we could do this? Oh, who knew? 'Cause oh, butterfly, oh, butterfly, oh, butterfly, oh, with broken wings. 'Cause yeah, butterfly, oh, butterfly, oh, oh, butterfly, oh, with broken wings.